Oh, we still have with us in the studio Mr. Tanko, who is a presidential aspirant on the platform of the National Conscience Party. And we also have with us Chief Godson Okoye, who is the former presidential candidate and the national chairman of UDP. Gentlemen, I want to ask you, do you think that these elections, do you see a likelihood of the elections being postponed as a result of what we're currently seeing? Would you be surprised if that happens, Chief?
Of course, I won't be. I won't be, because the necessary preparations have not been made. If about a month or two to the official announcement of the schedule of the election, we're talking about making provision for budget, making provision for money to get some key materials. It's a very dangerous signal. It only says we're not ready. That's what any reasonable person can decipher from this. And then, we're not even talking about the money being readily there. And apart from even appropriating the money, which is the job of the National Assembly in the first place, to appropriate money for the executive to do the needful, we're even trying to say the money should come from there or from here, which is an uphill task. So it's like the devil's alternative. It's option you choose, people will die. So the way around this should be for every person to make the necessary sacrifice that needs to be made. Is it that somebody was asleep and suddenly remembered we're going to have an election? Or what? When the INEC, which is also part of the executive branch, put up a program, he made the announcement about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years, that this is the schedule of election. We're going to, at this point, we'll do this, at this point, we'll do that. Then suddenly, in fact, some provision will have been made for some of that budget in last year's budget, so that you will have started the preparation. Then what is left, you will have appropriated in this year's budget.
But
nobody said anything.
That's what
and the year's budget had been discussed and done with. Where the budget, and then it's like a supplementary budget. Like somebody just woke up. That's why I said people are not taking the country serious.
Well, you know, Mr. Okoye, we know that during over the last maybe 6 to 12 months, obviously there was so much discussion around the amendment of the Electoral Act bill. Obviously that's going on. It continues now because of the latest.
The Electoral Act bill cannot stop you from making budgetary provision for elections.
I'm getting to that, Mr. Okoye. We know that obviously the card reader was a major issue, but then the amendment came late with the clause about the reordering of elections, which took so much time and attention to get through. Can you give us a sense of how you think that process, some of the intrigues within that bill, the amendment bill, would have affected adequate planning for the election in view of the different desires on the part of the executive and the legislature for how that election would have ultimately been conducted?
Yeah, but even with all that, if people were patriotic enough to take the country serious, at the point they were discussing all that, there's nothing that stopped them from presenting this budget. Even at the time they are having those bickerings, order of election, Electoral Act bill and all that, you also have been thrown in the mix. Gentlemen, there is a budget. There is an election coming. We will need budgetary provision. Even if we are still squabbling over what will be Electoral Act or whether it should not be. But there is already an existing Electoral Act that will work. And then, if you are talking about reordering of election, it has really nothing to do with making provisions, making budget available. There is no doubt it negatively affected all this, what we are discussing. But it did not stop.
But Mr. Okoye, let me be a bit more clear.
Yeah.
It may not appear to have an effect, but I just want to be very clear that is it not even possible that there was some sort of a kind of a use of this election budget as a kind of a negotiating chip to leverage, to use as a kind of a point of leverage from one side over the other to get what one side wants in the process?
Definitely. I agree with you completely. But then, these are not the kind of things you do when there is a national election coming. There are things you don't play politics with. You know, you are toying with the fate of a country. And that's not nice, by any standard. But if people also think about the country properly, this kind of policy, even if you're going to use it as bargaining chip, it will have been done before now. That's what they call lobbying. These are the languages of democracy. That's what they call consultation. But we see the same party, and they are quarreling amongst themselves. Well, I mean, the only thing that is lacking, I keep saying, if you have a national interest, the national interest subsumes the interest of every political party. It subsumes the interest of every group. But because it's lacking, this one will say, is APC of Ghana? Is APC of Nigeria? And what is the interest of Nigeria? There's no. That's why this is not happening.
Your co-guest is looking a bit pensive. Are you seeing the possibility that INEC could be postponing this elections?
It was when you asked that question that it's just down on me that we have a very big challenge ahead of us. And if we do not tackle it quickly, we may have a very serious problem or even possibility of not having the election at all. And,
do you think that the actors are aware of this? I mean, just how grave the matter at hand is? Or is it that maybe it's not so important? Maybe we're the ones worrying unnecessarily.
When you ask that, that's where leadership comes into play. And also define leadership as when you have a leader who has a lot of followers behind him. And there was contradiction as regard to that does not actually give a clear definition of leadership. And I said a leader is somebody who has that particular capacity to be able to identify the different needs of different groups.
Leadership on whose part?
No, leadership as a leader.
Yes.
Then putting them together.
Yeah, but I mean, specifically, where are you looking at this leadership?
Where I'm looking at is that
now?
when you talk about leadership, as of today now, the whole box stop on the presidency. Why I said this is because you need to be able to play a role that other people see some confidence and believe in you so that they will not truncate whatever idea or what you intend to give to the people. And where you are not able to midwife that particular different divergence views, collapsing it into one, it becomes a problem. As it is today now, there are this particular heavy suspicion on the presidency, even INEC, and then probably the legislature as regard to what they are doing. People are accusing INEC of regard to that. Majority of the INEC officials are heavily one-sided. And then the presidency is looking at it that there are people who are outside there trying to truncate this particular government. And so therefore, things are not working the way they're supposed to work. Once you can identify these different divergence views, all you need to do is sit down and table, okay, it's a give and take situation. What is the problem that you're identifying? Let's look at it. Let's work together so that we can be able to get this election through. Because one thing I'm seeing now, what I'm saying is that if the leadership of this country do not come down on its high horse and parley with the people in the assembly, and the assembly people do not come down from their own high horse and trying to play politics with our democracy, both of them may end up being the loser and the country may end up having a big problem. So we have to tarry a bit. This particular commando style, and we are removing this, we are removing that. No, we are not going to allow this to happen again. It will not go well for this our democracy. And it's key now. Because we have less than how many months? The primaries of the political parties are supposed to be done in October. And we're talking about an election process that we have to produce papers and all of those ones. Some of the papers, if you want to get credibility out of them, you must go outside the country to get them. And that is not already on ground. We don't even know the actual preparation of INEC as it were. As of today, some people are still talking about their even PVC. I collected mine some few days ago, and I saw the lot of people still hanging on trying to collect the PVC. Those are the documents that we use in actually voting. And that is not done yet. We are not settled. And it's dangerous.
That's definitely a fine place to leave it. The area of danger, the fact that danger could be looming if indeed we're not able to approve a budget for INEC as quickly as possible. But gentlemen, we have to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning on this particular matter. Tanko is a presidential aspirant on the platform on the National Conscience Party, and Ms. Chief Godson Okoye is a former presidential candidate and also the national chairman of UDP. Sunrise Daily continues about now with Chamberlain and the crew.